It's no secret that Sonic Origins wasn't everything that fans had hoped it was going to be at launch, including but not limited to some pretty substantial bugs, some questionable DLC, and just some general missing content that people thought should be in, considering other products like Sonic Mega Collection had more to offer. Sonic Origins Plus was made to try and rectify that, so we're going to have a little look and see what improvements it's made and how it is compared to the original release of Sonic Origins. So, let's get into it. A very minor thing, but straight away, a big improvement is the Island Tour mode. It's now just accessible from the get-go with Sonic Origins Plus. It's no longer its own separate bit of DLC, and it is vastly more interesting and populated. It's got a lot more enemies, it's got more varieties of little animal buddies, and it's got more characters. The probably biggest feature, I would say, is Amy is finally playable in the classic Sonic games, or would it technically... I think they're just phasing out. She used to be called Rosie the Rascal, which is a really funny name. I really like it. I think it's kind of endearing. But I mean, Amy Rosa is a better name. Overall, it's a more recognizable name, but anyway. Yeah, so Classic Amy is now playable in all of the Sonic games for the first time. And it is kind of weird that she wasn't in the first place, considering in the intro animation and all the key art for the game, Amy is there as if she's one of the crew, and she definitely is. Like, Amy is definitely one of the crew by now. And I mean, it was weird that Amy was so prevalent in a lot of the key art, because in the original games, she was only in Sonic CD, and she didn't play a huge part in it. She was just kind of a damsel in distress type character. Which I guess is fine for that game, but if you're kind of touting her as a big part of the team and like having her in the intro animation and all the key art and stuff, and the ending animation especially where she's beating up robots alongside all the crew, it is kind of weird that she is the only one that isn't playable, but thankfully Sonic Origins Plus has rectified that. She's pretty similar to Sonic in terms of her speed. I think she might be a little bit slower than him, or about the same speed. I'm not 100% sure which one. But she has her hammer that she can use mid-jump, and it basically is like a better version of the Insta-Shield from Sonic 3. It just acts as a big continuous hitbox, and Amy like destroys bosses with this thing, because it also has a little bit more added height. As you can see when I do the actual attack, you can see its animation, it goes a bit above her naturally because she's swinging it, so she can reach a teeny tiny bit upwards than what her body can, which means that you can get in loads of hits on bosses like really early and get to items that are above you. So she's actually got a lot of utility because she's got the power of Knuckles to an extent. It's not quite as good as just his natural bulk. There are some rocks that only he can break through that Amy can't, mainly in Sonic 3. But a lot of them where Sonic just wouldn't be able to get in at all just by spin dashing, Amy can. So Amy has a drop dash-like ability, but instead of going into a ball like the rest of the cast, she bangs her hammer down forward and charges ahead for a few seconds. So it's got more combat versatility, I guess, since she can change direction while she's doing this hammer move, but obviously with her not being in a ball, it does leave her exposed to getting hit by an enemy. Say an enemy pops out of the ground, depending on the angle they come out in, Amy could still get hit by that and take damage if she doesn't hit them with the hammer. So it's not as good as the drop dash. I do prefer the drop dash to it, but I like that they gave her her own sort of identity when it comes to the moves. It's not just a boring carbon copy, considering she can just spin dash naturally as well. And that's not all, because along with just general improvements and bug fixes they've made to the games across the board, they've actually gone back and made Knuckles playable in Sonic CD, which is something I actually raised in my Sonic Origins video when I originally made it. It's really weird that, and I know it's because they're based off the mobile ports and Knuckles wasn't included in the mobile ports for Sonic CD, but just as a collection, It's weird that Knuckles is playable in every other game except Sonic CD, when Sonic and Tails obviously don't have that issue. They put Tails back in Sonic 1, Knuckles is in Sonic 1 as well, and Sonic 2, and naturally all the characters were playable in Sonic 3 and Knuckles. So it was weird that this game was the odd one out, and Knuckles as well was the odd one out by extension. But as well as, like I say, Amy being in all of the games, Knuckles is now playable in Sonic CD, meaning every character is playable in every game, which is a huge relief. I'm so glad that they changed that, and Knuckles in CD is a really good fit. He keeps the same gameplay gimmick where he's slower than Sonic and Tails, but he's got his glide ability. But it makes the very secret-oriented level design of CD a lot easier to traverse through with him. He's a really good fit for this game, and yeah, like I say, it was just weird that he wasn't playable in the first place, but better late than never, I suppose, and he is an absolutely great addition to the game, so I'm glad he's in. And one thing that I'm really glad that they did, because I wasn't sure if they were going to include this with Amy being in the classic Sonic games, is obviously in Sonic 2 and 3, you've got the ability to get the 7 Chaos Emeralds, and Sega, especially lately, and by lately I mean just kind of within the last few years, have been weirdly overprotective on which characters can and can't go Super. But thankfully, there is a full-on Super Amy transformation in the Sonic Origins Plus collection. It's nothing crazy, it's just her glowing, which is just pretty much the same as the rest of the cast that aren't Sonic, but I think there was a real chance that we might not have gotten this, because I think Sega have mentioned a couple times in the past now that they've been asked, why can't Amy turn Super? She's a hedgehog. Shadow and Silver have been able to, Knuckles has been able to, and so has Tails in Sonic 3. Why can't Amy go Super? And they've been like, I'm paraphrasing here, but if I remember correctly, that their reasoning was that only male hedgehogs are allowed to go Super, which is just completely stupid. Just let her go Super. It doesn't matter. Just let her have the Super transformation, and thankfully they did. I was scared they were going to be weirdly, unbudging on that and be like, no, she can't be Super, 7 Chaos Emeralds will do nothing, but thankfully that's not the case, and they've done the correct decision and let Amy turn Super in Sonic 2 and 3, which is great, which is a great addition. The only really, I guess, criticism if I have in terms of Amy's gameplay is with Sonic 3, it sucks that she doesn't get one of the 2 unique bosses with either the hypersonic fight where, just instead of hypersonic flying, it's just her flying, or the fight against Mecha Sonic, she just gets the same final boss that Tails and the rest of the characters do if they don't collect the Chaos Emeralds. So that just felt a little bit anticlimactic to me, especially since when you get all the Super Emeralds, I don't think it says Hyper Amy, but I mean, come on, that's what it is. But Hyper's a conversation for another video, since Sega have been really weird about that since after Sonic 3, pretty much. But I'm glad I'm glad they loosened up with the whole Super thing. They seem to have really loosened up with that now, even Super Knuckles getting mentioned in Sonic Frontiers. It seems like they've kind of stopped being so weird about it now. So yeah, like I say, nothing but good news on that front there. There's also a little bit more content in terms of bonus features, like a few more extra songs and artwork, which is fine. But the main draw of Origins Plus, other than Amy obviously, is the inclusion of Game Gear games. So there's about 12 Game Gear titles available, give or take, and I'm not even going to bother showing them because really, who cares about the Game Gear games? Me saying that, I have actually played most of the Game Gear games, and they're fine, they're alright. But the weird thing to me anyway is, if they were going to include these old games, most of them are ports from the Master System anyway, and the Master System are just objectively better versions of those games. It's got the same really poor screen of where you can barely see anything in front of you, and that just makes the games way more frustrating than they actually were on the Master System. They're fine, decent little platformers, they're fine enough games, but Yeah, the Game Gear ports, you can barely see 3 footsteps in front of you, which can make some bosses and a lot of the platforming really, really frustrating. And I just don't get why they went with the obviously worse versions. I guess because they haven't been released outside of their initial versions, and it was just easier to port them, but that's just really, really lazy, man. Like, come on. Like, this is meant to be the definitive sort of version of this collection. You might as well go all out if you didn't last time, but hey. I guess we'll have to wait for Origins Plus Plus or some more DLC to add the Master System if we're lucky. I'm being facetious if you couldn't tell. But I mean, in the grand scheme of things, the Game Gear games, they aren't really important. They aren't the reason why you'd get Origins Plus anyway, in my opinion. The reason you'd get them is the inclusion of Amy and Knuckles being in every version of the game. But what I mean to say is kind of the main topic that I've been dancing around is the main reasons why you would want Sonic Origins Plus should have been included in Sonic Origins to begin with. I mean, it should kind of be a simple job selling, let's be real, not hugely upgraded versions of your classic games. You know, there's the slight graphical improvement, the inclusion of a couple of extra characters. It's not a monumental task to bring over, and yeah, I think that is reflected in Origins and Origins Plus's asking price, initially anyway. But the fact that if you want a physical copy, or B, you were interested and you didn't get Sonic Origins in the first place, or you did at the discounted price or what have you, the fact you have to pay again to get the version that should have been released in the first place, it isn't a great look for your big old company. That they fumbled the bag releasing these pretty, simple remasters this hard. Now, granted, to play devil's advocate a bit, it is good that they discounted the price. They could have just not done that. They could have just released it at full price and said, tough luck. If you want the extra stuff, you have to buy it again at full price. So I think it is good that they discounted it. I will say that to give them a little bit of credit. But really, I mean, Knuckles and Amy, at least, they should have just been free updates. If you wanted all the little extra stuff, then, include that. It's not necessary. The extra Game Gear games, that sort of thing. Include those, and have those as a little separate DLC pack that you can get at a discounted price or whatever, but it does feel like those Game Gear games were just there to basically justify selling the game again at the same price that they sold the original Origins on, not to actually bring over some lesser known or lesser played games, especially when they could have brought over superior versions of those games anyway, but again, that's beside the point. So, what do I think of Sonic Origins Plus now? I will say, if you don't have any other way of experiencing the classic games, whether you've not bought them previously or whether you want to emulate, which is fair, some people don't like emulation and that is completely fine, I would say at a sale, absolutely, I think it's fine enough to go for. But for those who already have Sonic Origins, or aren't really that interested in the classic games, or just aren't really interested in it for whatever reason, or are just kind of curious and not fully interested or that into Sonic, yeah, I'd say you can definitely wait for a sale. But despite my gripes, I do think this game, like I say, is worth getting at a discounted price. They're still the same fun games. They are nothing but just purely improved versions of the original bundle of games that Sonic Origins came out with. So, if you were thinking of getting Sonic Origins and you weren't sure and you were waiting, Sonic Origins Plus, I'd say it's fine to get. If you want to take the plunge, I'd say, that's fine to... It's fine to get them. Again, I would personally advise waiting for a sale, and it's not great that Sega kind of fumbled the bag this hard in a simple re-release, but you know what, it is what it is. At least we do have Amy and Knuckles and all the bells and whistles that come with it. And yeah, that's my quick little thoughts on Sonic Origins Plus. So thank you all so much for watching. If you liked the video, please comment and like the video, comment on it. and subscribe if you like my content and you want to see more. And I want to know what your thoughts are on Sonic Origins Plus. Are you getting it? Were you not interested? If so, why weren't you into it? And do you feel like it is worth the money, or do you feel like it's, for lack of a better term, a cash grab on Sega's part? I'm very eager to hear what people have to say on this release in the comments. But again, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye bye.